Senador Gordon, kinastigo, sinabon at pinagsisigawan sila Atty. Leong at Lau na para bang siya isang perpektong tao. Well, tungayan ng buong detalye. At kapag hindi pa nakapag-subscribe, subscribe na upang tuloy-tuloy ang ating talakayan.
Answered several times in these previous hearings that those are not part of the requirements. Ang only requirements namin is the OSS, the mayor's permit, and the ITR. And we're buying it under Bayanihan 1. Those are not required by law.
Mr. Chair,
Jesus Christ.
Lahat ng
let the witness speak because he's always accusing us that he cannot speak. Let the witness speak. Let us see him explain that because sa taong karaniwan at laki nung binibigay mong kwarta na galing sa pinaghirapan ng tao.
Pinaghirapan ng tao, ang sabi mo, sir? Ano to? Ano yung mga dati mong tao sa SBMA na hindi pa nababayaran ng kanilang mga benepisyo? At ito ay nangyari sa panahon mo bilang SBMA chairman. Totoo ba, sir, na hindi kayo liable na magbayad? Pero ayon daw sa NLRC, nanalo itong mga naghabol. Anong nangyari, sir? Well, siguro pakinggan mo na lang panawagan sa'yo. Baka pwede mong pakinggan, sir. Nakakaya naman. Diba, matino kang politiko? Baka naman matulungan mo sila habang hindi pa huli ang lahat.
Ang masasabi ko sa kanya, dapat naman po tulungan niya kami. Kung sinasabi niya na kami, taon niya kami. Talagang taon niya kami hanggang buhay kami. Pero yung gano'n naman ginawa niya, maaari sigurong karoon na rin ng angganan. Ganun lang po yung pag-uusap po namin. May tampo kami sa kanya talaga.
Sana kung bigyan lang ng chance na makausap si Presidente in behalf. Baka pwede kahit mukha ko iharap ko na doon para sa buong empleyado ng FSC SBMA na hanggang ngayon naghihirap para maintindihan na kung anong nangyari talaga sa SBMA. So, ang sinasabi ng SBMA, hindi sila liable para magbayad. Pero yun nga ang tanong ko sino ba ang nag-create ng Freeport Service Corporation as being a subsidiary ng SBMA? So ikaw yung mother company.
Well, 2014 pa daw na desisyonan na ng NLRC ang kanilang reklamo laban sa SBMA at may writ of execution na para mabayaran ang kanilang claims. Ano nangyari, sir? Baka pwede mo silang tulungan.
Nung kami po ay nag-file ng kaso against SBMA Freeport Service Corporation as yung aming length of service na dapat nilang bayaran sa amin, actually sa akin is nasa 3 years lang naman yung dapat nilang bayaran. Pero malaki na rin yung kagaya kung mahirap lang na empleyado. So, ang inaano ko lang doon, bakit ang tagal-tagal na nung lumabas yung writ hanggang sa inilapit naman namin sa kanila kasama yung aming sheriff.
Nalo po kami talaga sa kaso, sir, sa NLRC. Tapos, gano'n na nga po ang ginawa nila. Binabaliwala. Ang masasabi ko sa kanya, dapat naman po tulungan niya kami. Kung sinasabi niya na kami, taon niya kami. Talagang taon niya kami hanggang buhay kami. Pero yung gano'n naman ginawa niya, maaari sigurong karoon na rin ng angganan. Ganun lang po yung pag-uusap po namin. May tampo kami sa kanya talaga.
Sana kung bigyan lang ng chance na makausap si Presidente in behalf. Baka pwede kahit mukha ko iharap ko na doon para sa buong empleyado ng FSC SBMA na hanggang ngayon naghihirap para maintindihan na kung anong nangyari talaga sa SBMA.
Well, ganun pa lang nangyari. Pero balita ko, tatalo rin sila sa Court of Appeals. Pero by technicality na lang siguro yun, sir. Pwede mo silang tulungan. Kawawa rin din naman ang mga yan. Mga dati mo rin naman silang mga tao. Well, pasensya na, mga kasangga. Sige, sir, tuloy na natin ang hearing.
been answered several times in these previous hearings that those are not part of the requirements. Ang only requirements namin is the OSS, the mayor's permit, and the ITR. And we're buying it under Bayanihan 1. Those are not required by law.
Mr.
First,
Chair.
on the test
Jesus
kits,
Christ.
kasi
Chairman.
lahat ng
Let the witness speak because he's always accusing us that he cannot speak. Let the witness speak. Let us see him explain that because sa taong karaniwan at laki nung binibigay mong kwarta na galing sa pinaghirapan ng tao na bilyon-bilyon tapos sabihin mo, ilusot ako dyan. I-deliver naman eh. I-deliver naman eh. Baka mo? Hindi porke dineliver yun, hindi nangangalawan, nakalusot ka na. Hindi mo ginawa, i-require ng batas. Are you telling me na in-exempt kayo doon sa technical, legal, and financial? Exempted kayo doon? Yung requirement na yun? Wala ka nang titignan na technical, wala ka nang titignan na legal, wala ka nang titignan na financial capability? Is that what you want us to believe? Answer the question, please.
I've already answered this, Mr. Chairman.
Do not be impertinent.
I'm not impertinent, Mr.
You
Chairman.
are. Now, shut up.
Mr. Chairman?
You're trying our patience. I'm asking a simple question and you're saying in a very sarcastic way na natanong na. Tinatanong kita, nag-isip ka na matagal, tapos ang lusot mo, sasabihin mo, eto, sinagot ko na yan. Ano sinagot mo? Are you saying legal, technical, and financial requirements have been thrown out of the window?
I will go back first to the legal, technical, and financial po. The ITR doesn't show the capitalization po, Mr. Chairman. We could have procured naman if the intention is to go into NFCC po, that's the capitalization, that's the net financial contracting capacity. We could do that with competitive bidding po. Nandun po siya, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me. But tama ka. Pero kayo nang hingi nun eh. Dito sa bid document ninyo, yung request ninyo, nakalagay dyan, Mayor's Permit, Legal, Income Tax Return, number 3, Net Financial Contracting Capacity. Kayo humingi dyan.
I think
Hindi sila. Kayo nagbigay niyan.
I think that document, Your Honor, pertains to the first procurement of surgical masks po.
Ano, nagbabago kayo? Pagka...
Bayanihan 1 po. So, from there po, the USEC made the judgment call. Yan po yung may sinasabi po na supposed advanced delivery. So, we transitioned from negotiated procurement to Bayanihan 1. Now, on March 25, we didn't have an inkling that an IRR would be issued. Ang law pa lang po ang present noon, and it was very explicit. Exempted from 9184.
There's a law. You didn't have an inkling that an IRR would be issued?
Correct, Mr. Chairman, because it did not have a provision similar to RA 9184, Section 75 of 9184, stating that an IRR po,
Negated by this law. Number 9184 is still required, diligence and that you undertake the procurement of the following as the need arises in the most expeditious manner as exemptions from the provisions on bidding process required under Republic Act 9184 and other relevant laws.
correct, Mr. Chairman. That's the wording po. That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, with the permission of the
Pag-iisip
chairman.
natin hindi naman tayo nagba-iba. Ang lang, sa implementation nagkakatalo. Na at the last moment, pagka nagkaroon kayo ng second survey, umaangat palagi formally. Hindi ka ba nagtataka doon? You look like a good man, all right?
And thank you for that, Mr. Chairman.
I mean what I say here, you know? Look
Mukhang well-connected naman sa China, kaya sige na nga, nasubukan lang, bigyan na lang natin ng 8 billion pesos na kontrata. Ganun ba yung sequence of events dyan?
No, that is inaccurate and misleading, Mr. Chairman.
Oh,
The letter that they said is a letter of intent. The offer is 900,000 pieces of face masks on hand. Previous to that, we were able to buy only since March 9 until March 16, only 50,000 pieces of face masks in order to supply the entire workforce of the Philippine government. That is the first time, and the second time that we got the same almost offer is from Pharmaly, 900,000 face masks on hand. So imagine, is very hard for us to look for the surgical face mask kasi wala nga. May isa nag-offer si New Life, I think only 50,000. The second one is Pharmaly and the third one is PhilPharma of 100,000. These are very scant offers of the total demand that we need to supply. We need to remember during this time, there is a clamor from the Senate and there's a clamor from Congress. And in fact, there is a clamor from the medical field that they will stop reporting going to the hospitals if they will not be provided with this important face mask and other PPE items. The burden is
You're getting
of
ahead of the story. You're getting ahead of the story po.
Yes.
Bago umabot sa point of desperation ng ating healthcare workers to request government for a timeout, merong ding, in response to that clamor, merong ding track record at offer yung mga Pilipinong manufacturing company, not just of face masks, also of PPEs and other COVID products to provide yung kailangan ng gobyerno. But in the meantime, ito nga si
On the
Pharmalink.
record, Mr. Chairman, there was no offer by local manufacturers
Ay, nako.
during that time because they were not yet existing.
Attorney Lau, this is the second
Already
na in effect nag-argue tayo sa puntong ito. This first happened last year, but I stand by yung sinabi sa ating lahat ng CONWEP, ng Confederation of Philippine Manufacturers of PPEs. They had the capacity and they had the offers. Now let's just talk about Pharmally kasi sila yung eventually pinrocurean ninyo. They didn't have 900,000 pieces of masks on hand at that time. So, hindi ba misrepresentation yun?
Madam Chairman, kaya nga I asked them to show proof on March 24 when they sent a letter of intent. Show proof because they're the only ones who are claiming they have it on hand. And they did show proof on March 25.
What was that proof, Attorney Lau?
They brought the items to the office.
Attorney Lau, hindi ba kayo aware at that time na yung Pharmally was undercapitalized and in fact, kinailangan pa nila ng tulong ni Mr. Yang just to make good on that contract of theirs with PSDBM?
But, Mr. Chairman, one, I am not in privy to their personal transactions. Second, it is not my mandate in my office to check those things. It has already been answered several times in these previous hearings that those are not part of the requirements. Ang only requirements namin is the OSS, the mayor's permit, and the ITR. And we're buying it under Bayanihan 1. Those are not required by law. And
Mr. Chairman, I see that
items are delivered. The items are delivered.
Yes. Yes, excuse me, Risa, I hate to interrupt. But this, Mr. Lau, you know, and I in the previous hearings, I confronted you with the law which says you have to look at the financial capacity of the supplier. You admitted that you didn't look at the articles of incorporation. So, and the requirement that you check on the financial capacity of the supplier is found in the law. I suggest that we leave it at that, Ms. Ontiveros, Senator Ontiveros, because this we keep on going around this because Lau thinks he's very smart and keeps on denying things which he has already mentioned. So we submit, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The chair agrees with the Senate President, the Senate Floor Leader, and I would like to caution Mr. Lau, do not raise your voice against a lady, especially as an.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman,
You must.
it's my biological.
I don't think any questions. There is no explanation for that kind of conduct.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. I really apologize.
You're out of line.
Senator Antiveros, I apologize.
Go ahead, please.
Salamat kayo,
apologize.
Attorney Lau. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just additional questions about the PGI RT-PCR test kits, no? During your time as Executive Director of the PSDBM, do you recall, Attorney Lau, having procured BGI RT-PCR test kits at saka din MGI, Easy DNA RNA extraction kits from Pharmally?
I can recall several items that we procured. I think we have the A-Star Fortitude. I'm not aware of the MGI. I'm aware of the BGI. I'm aware of Sansure. I'm aware of Gene Expert. Several other small small volume of other brands.
Okay.
But MGI, I'll have to check. I'm not aware. I think BGI, MGI is the same.
Yes.
I'm not confident.
To remind Attorney Lau, ultimately galing sa parehong manufacturer yan. Kasi ang MGI, subsidiary ng BGI or yung Beijing Genomics Institute. So, kaninong decision din po mag-procure ng BGI at ng MGI kits through Pharmally? Sa inyo rin bang decision yun?
No, the decision is based either on the offers provided to us or if they have this exclusive distributorship agreement. Sometimes, I think I also have a letter addressed to BGI main in the course of the transaction kasi nung pinadala sa amin ng DOH yan, hindi kasi namin alam where to source it. Just people just come to us, institutions make offers when they offer to supply. Most of them are coming from DOH kasi old suppliers sila ng DOH. The problem we had during that time is most of the offerers like si Gene Expert offers to us 24 months. 24 months, but staggered. Ang problema namin, hindi natin alam kung aabot ng 24 months ang tawag doon, ang COVID. Some offers like BGI, may restriction, then open. Kasi minsan, sasabihin nila, we will offer, but you have to help us with the government. Like Singapore, I think, A-Star Fortitude, we had a problem. Singapore stopped exportation. China initially stopped exportation. Gene Expert, US stopped exportation. Now, we also have certain restrictions in the localities. Meron silang, what do you call that? Exclusive distributorship rights. Meron silang ganun na contract. So, as PSDBM, we are very cautious on how we deal with the manufacturer without any trouble. So I think I wrote a letter to BGI China through the ambassador of China requesting that we be patched directly at China. But BGI sent us a letter that there's an exclusive distributorship agreement. So we stopped kasi baka magkakaso kami. It's the same process I made with Sansure, but Sansure actually offered to us another supplier, which is from Hong Kong and one from Taiwan. I think they're the ones who's competing with each other. Also with A-Star Fortitude, ginawa ko rin yan through Singapore. Nagpadala din kami ng letter.
Mr. Chairman,
and Singapore also referred to us a representative from Singapore who directly supplied to us.
with the
So
permission
depende po
of-
yan, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, I will not ask Mr. Lau a question.
Sandra Pangilinan, just a moment. Just wanted to correct the misimpression being presented by this witness. He said that Singapore stopped exporting. Actually, we had an offer from Singapore, which is much lower than what you got. And in fact, you got the Singapore brand. Instead of going directly to the Singapore factory, you went to Pharmally in Indonesia, which charged you a lot more. Because I know, because we got the same offer, and I have the document right here. So try not to exaggerate your statements because we can check all your statements. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman, may I? I
we
share
were able to get directly from Versus PTE Limited po.
I am speaking, Mr. Lau.
Oh yes, sorry, I apologize, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I share with the earlier manifestation and observation of Senator Vilon that when we ask Mr. Lao all these questions, he will just keep repeating what we believe to be his interpretation, and obviously contrary to what he already testified earlier. In fact, if you will recall, Mr. Chairman, I asked for a matrix. But you said that is not necessary, and I will defer to the chairman's position. But precisely that matrix will just show that in every hearing he contradict. If you put together all that he has said in all these hearings, from one hearing to the other, he contradicts himself. So it's I think already established, and to ask him to further explain will just bring us back to contradiction after contradiction. For the record also, Mr. Chairman, which you said earlier, and may I manifest that marami pa ito. He mentioned earlier about Element, and the data submitted to us by DBMPS will show that Element that has purchased about 7 billion or was able to deliver about 7 billion pesos worth of purchases from DBMPS had a capitalization of $10,000 US. So again, the first one had a capitalization of 625,000 pesos, Pharmally, and now you have another second company worth 7 billion worth of contracts with $10,000 capitalization. So clearly, the record will show that undercapitalized suppliers and corporations were able to bag billions of pesos worth of contracts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this point, I will concur with the
Let's hear
manifestation.
the explanation here. Here, Senator Pangilinan saying that there's another preferred supplier. Is that correct, Senator Pangilinan? $10,000 and he bagged a contract on the amount of?
Based on the data submitted, $10,000. This is in the PhilJeps.
Yes, yes. I have it here also.
April 22, 2020, it was incorporated. April 20,
Sulit na yan.
2020, in-incorporate siya. $10,000, baka Hong Kong dollars pa ito. Ang capitalization, and was able to purchase total deliveries about 6.98 billion pesos.
I have that. I have that. And I didn't realize that the capital stock is 10,000. So my point is, Mr. Lau, hindi ka ba nalulula na nabibigay ka ng kontrata all by your lonesome na umaabot ng bilyon-bilyon or milyon-milyon at nagbigay ka sa Pharmally ng isang kontrata na 3.8 billion ba yun? Yung marami yung binili na sa isang golpe, isang kumpanya na napakaliit ng kapital. Yan ang hindi ko namin maintindihan sa iyo. Mukhang matalino ka naman, mukha lang. Pero mukhang lumalabas na namimili ka na hindi mo tinitignan na yung capitalization maliit. Pero binigay mo sa isang kumpanya, lampas ng halos 10 billion to 12 billion pesos. Bakit ganon? Hindi ko maintindihan yun. Kahit anong lingwahe mo ipaliwanag sa akin, hindi ko maintindihan yun.
Mr. Chairman, one, it is not required by law, which I have been answering previously under Bayanihan 1, hindi siya ni-require. Pangalawa po, most of these companies are referred to by the manufacturers like Element.
Would you mind stopping there? I don't want to interrupt because I know you've said that before. Pero hindi ba nangangahulugan na ikaw matalino ka? Kamo nga gano'n. Hindi porke sinabi sa'yo, hindi na kailangan yan. Hindi, walang gano'n Walang gano'n sa batas may preno lahat ang batas. Kahit sabihin na hindi mo na kailangan, basta dumating yan, hindi mo na kailangan sabihin na kailangan pa din magkaroon ka ng yung talagang tatlo pa ulit-ulit, yung financial, legal, at saka technical. At kailangan meron ka pa rin preno ng tinatawag nilang due diligence at hindi dapat itapon yung due diligence. Hindi porke may passes doon sa law na ginawa namin na pwede kayo. Hindi namin, we never in our minds thought that you can anybody can just get away with it without reviewing. Na hindi nyo re-reviewin kung anong kakayanan ng kumpanyang yan. Katulad yan, sumasabog Hindi namin kasalanan yan Hindi ka namin inahabol. Sumasabog Merong expired. Merong mga UP-UP. Tapos yung Pilipino nakakapagbigay ng mas mura. Tapos kinukuha mo pa rin sila. Katulad nung binigay mo sa Pharmally, isang one-time, big-time, 3.8 billion ba yan?
Yes,
3.8 billion for 2 million PPEs ba yan? 3.8 billion, nakakalula yun. Kahit na 1 billion sa PPE, nakakalula na yun Hindi ka ba dapat mag-ingat? Hindi lang naman yan Ang binigay mo sa Pharmally, yun talaga ang crux of the matter. Kahit ano balukturin mo, kahit sabihin mo, nagmamadali kayo, isang kumpanya lang ang na-favor at nakalagay yan sa Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Law na makikita mo kung ikaw ay may manifestly disadvantageous to the government at may preference yung tao na binibigyan mo at wala kang negligence at ang negligence mo is so gross as to amount to bad faith, makukulong ka. Wala exemption doon. Wala exemption doon.
Mr. Chairman, may I be allowed to explain?
Mr.
First,
Chair,
on the test kits.
Jesus Christ.
Chairman.
Lahat ng test kits are
Mr.
all
Chairman,
imported. There is no local manufacturer of test
Lacson
kits.
wishes to be
Let the witness speak because he's always accusing us that he cannot speak. Let the witness speak. Let us see him explain that. Because sa taong pangkaraniwan at ang lalaki nung binibigay mong kwarta na galing sa pinaghirapan ng tao, na bilyon-bilyon, tapos sabihin mo, ilusot ako dyan. I-deliver naman eh. I-deliver naman eh. Di ba, kamo? Hindi porke dineliver yun, hindi nangangalawan, nakalusot ka na. Kung hindi mo ginawa, yun nire-require ng batas, are you telling me na in-exempt kayo doon sa technical, legal, and financial? Exempted kayo doon? Yung requirement na yun? Wala ka nang titignan na technical, wala ka nang titignan na legal, wala ka nang titignan na financial capability? Is that what you want us to believe? Answer the question, please.
I've already answered this, Mr. Chairman.
Do not be impertinent.
I'm not impertinent, Mr.
You
Chairman.
are. Now, shut up.
Mr. Chairman?
You're trying our patience. I'm asking a simple question and you're saying in a very sarcastic way na natanong na. Tinatanong kita, nag-isip ka na matagal, tapos ang lusot mo, sasabihin mo, eto, sinagot ko na yan. Ano sinagot mo? Are you saying legal, technical, and financial requirements have been thrown out of the window? Di ba sinasabi mo? Ano kung saan law school ka nag-aral? Let the record state that the witness
refuses to answer.
answered because he's trying to think of another lie. That's my
I'm
only.
not refusing to answer, Mr. Chairman. I'm just...
Senator Pangilinan, you were going to ask a question?
Senator Lacson is raising his hand.
All right, Senator Lacson, please go ahead.
Senator Lacson.
Pinagbigyan na kita eh. Binastos mo na yung isang babaeng senador eh. Tapos akong babasusin mo. Hindi kita paparanin. Yung impunity ninyo sa administrasyon na ito, hindi makakaraan sa mga taong katulad namin dito sa Senado. Go ahead, Mr. Leong.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will go back first to the legal, technical, and financial po. The ITR doesn't show the capitalization po, Mr. Chairman. We could have procured naman if the intention is to go into NFCC po, that's the capitalization, that's the net financial contracting capacity. We could do that with competitive bidding po. Nandun po siya, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me. But tama ka. Pero kayo nang hingi nun eh. Dito sa bid document niyo, yung request niyo, nakalagay diyan, mayor's permit, legal, income tax return, number 3, net financial contracting capacity. Kayo humingi diyan.
I think
Hindi sila. Kayo nagbigay niyan.
I think I think that document, Your Honor, pertains to the first procurement of surgical masks po. Kasi if I'm
nagbabago kayo pagka
one po. Opo. So from there po, the USEC made the judgment call. Yan po yung may sinasabi po na supposed advanced delivery. So we transitioned from negotiated procurement to Bayanihan 1. Now, on March 25, we didn't have an inkling that an IRR would be issued. Ang law pa lang po ang present noon, and it was very explicit. Exempted from 9184.
There's a law, you didn't have an inkling that an IRR would be issued?
Correct, Mr. Chairman, because it did not have a provision similar to RA 9184, Section 75 of 9184, stating that an IRR po
negated by this law. Number 9184 is still required, diligence and that you undertake the procurement of the following as the need arises in the most expeditious manner as exemptions from the provisions on bidding process required under Republic Act 9184 and other relevant laws.
Correct, Mr. Chairman. That's the wording po. That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, with the permission of the
Pag-iisip
chairman.
natin hindi naman tayo nagba-iba. Ang lang, sa implementation nagkakatalo. Na at the last moment, pagka nagkaroon kayo ng second survey, umaangat palagi formally. Hindi ka ba nagtataka doon? You look like a good man, all right?
And thank you for that, Mr. Chairman.
I mean what I say here, you know? Look at it. Sunod-sunod, formally lahat ang nananalo. Ang lalaki ng kontrata. At ting mananalo, biglang may extra edge, may extra leg up. Yung isa, 7 days. Yung isa, wala. Talo sila. Wala silang 7 days. Yung isa, will deliver by a certain date. Talo na naman sila. Ito na makikita nyo, yung isa, ginamit yung lumang data. Sabihin mo, historical data. Marami pa ito. Meron pa akong 4. 4 pa lang yung napapakita ko. And you are supposed to be performing a fiduciary act for the people. You are in a position of trust na dapat pangalagaan nyo yung pera. You have to protect the people's interest here. Hindi ako nagle-lecture dito. Sinasabi ko lang yan. Ako, pag ginawa ko yung trabaho ko, iniisip ko, napuproteksyon ng bang tao dito o may nakakalamang sa tao. Diba? Pareho naman tayo nag-aaral sa Ateneo eh. Ateneo de Davao, Ateneo de Manila, pareho tinuturo dyan. We're man for others. Ad maiorem Dei gloriam. Diba? A word to the wise is sufficient. Diba?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, sipin natin yun. Yes, Senator Pangilinan. I'm sorry, I have to... Go ahead.
May I also cite another case wherein Farmally was again favored, and this is apart from these documents already shown by the chairperson. And this we've gathered through news reports and our discussions with in the committee hearings previously, the Economic Affairs Committee hearing of Senator Marcos, and the Committee on Trade hearing of Senator Pimentel, both confirming that as early as February 2020, we actually have a manufacturer of face masks in the country, Mr. Chairman. This is the Medtex Corporation. It is in the Freeport area of Bataan. And based on news reports, as early as February, Medtech had already committed to the DTI to produce 2 million masks monthly. And at that point in February, they were already producing 80,000 masks a day. And they export these masks abroad. They are engaged in the manufacturing of bandage, elastic, plaster, and face masks. So itong mga price survey, market survey, tsaka price analysis, bakit inuna nyo kaagad yung importer? Ba't di ninyo kinausap direkta itong Medtech? Yun ang merong local manufacturer, nagbibigay ng trabaho sa ating mga kababayan, kayang mag-produce ng 80,000 masks a day. February pa lang, nakipag-usap na sa DTI, pero at ang balita namin, ang information ng DTI sa amin, hindi nyo pinapansin. Dinidribble-dribble ng DBMPS. Kung ano-anong dahilan. Ilang meeting din. In fairness, marami daw kayong meeting. Pero walang nangyari sa meeting. Yung pala, puro dinedirekta sa Farmally. And with that, Mr. Chairman, our request, it's a manifestation, that perhaps if we can invite the Secretary of Trade in the next hearing so that he can clarify this. Because there was a huge tug of war na hindi pinapansin ng DOH, DBMPS, yung mga local manufacturers at ang DTI. Yan, government to government na yan, Mr. Leong. So I hope you understand.
I understand your sentiment, Mr. Chairman, Honorable Senator Pangilinan. Mr. Chairman, if I may clarify po, with respect to the local manufacturers, if my memory serves me right, we entertained EMS when they came to us. And with respect to the coveralls po, I think you're talking about I couldn't recall the name, they went to us, I think around after April.
Wait, no, you are bringing me to another set of facts. That's not the facts. Don't include other facts. The facts that I said was that February, pwede nang bumili ng masks. You're bringing me to PPEs eh. Nililigaw mo ako eh. Sorry, Mr. Leong, but
No,
I mentioned the case of masks, and now you're answering me about PPEs.
no,
You're not responsive. That your
No,
answer,
Mr. Chairman.
is not responsive.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, what I was saying was, we actually negotiated with a local. I said first po si EMS, and masks naman po si EMS. So,
No, I'm sorry. You didn't say that immediately. I'm sorry, but
I
please.
did, Mr. Chairman.
Let's go back to the transcripts. The first thing you said was PPEs. You didn't mention EMS. You already immediately went to Conweb and PPEs when I was raising the issue of masks. So please.
Mr. Chairman, that's not the intention. I really did mention EMS, but if it wasn't heard properly, I apologize for that.
Thank you. And please, and I didn't mention EMS. I mentioned MedTech.
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chairman. Kaya nga sabi namin,
EMS, we already debated and discussed, sorry, not debated, but we already interpolated and raised questions and exhausted the discussions on EMS. As early as February 2020, a manufacturer was actually manufacturing masks. EMS was not manufacturing masks at that time. They could not, but MedTech could. So you're again bringing me to EMS, and you will tell me that they were not yet capacitated because they had to what do you call it? Retool.
I cannot, Mr. Chairman, one last lang po. I understand the sentiment of Senator Pangilinan.
Bakit mo ako nilalayo sa MedTech?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'm not.
Okay, you aren't. But please, the question is about MedTech.
Yes.
Who at that point could already produce 80,000 masks a day.
I wasn't aware of that, Mr. Chairman. What I was
as procurement.
What I was aware.
Excuse me, as procurement division head, right in our own backyard, dapat sana alam mo yun, hindi ba?
I was going to that answer, Mr. Chairman. What I was aware was around March, we couldn't find, I don't know why, even MedTechs. I will try to ask my subordinates there. I think I was told that, I really couldn't remember it correctly right now. I think I was told that they had to export or import most of their production at that time. So we were really in a tight position on where to find masks.
Well, that's why, Mr. Chairman, thank you, Mr. Leong. That's why, Mr. Chairman, it would be good to bring in the DTI to clarify this, because the DTI is saying otherwise.
And besides, gentlemen, it wasn't hard to find masks. DOH found masks about the same time. Mas mababa doon sa binili nyo.
May 18 na po yun na-deliver, Mr. Chairman. Nakahanap din po tayo kay EMS ng 1350 po.
Yeah, pero mura pa rin yun, di ba? Mura pa rin. Ang
Yes,
nyo,
mura pa rin po. Mura din po.
Cannot be denied. Meron nabibili yan. In fact, itong si Leong, si Lincoln Ong, nakabili pa siya. Sinasabi ka ni Senator Lacson kanina, sinabi ko sa inyo, yung dito sa Tiger Phil. Tapos namili pa sila doon sa Green Trend. So meron talaga supply eh. Bakit natin pinipilit na pagbigyan natin? Ayun ang mali ninyo. Nakita na talagang yung bakas ninyo, panay pinagbibigyan ang Pharmalink to the tune of almost 12 billion. Ako, iniiwan ko na lang sa 8.9 billion. That 8.9 billion could have built 4 hospitals of 200 beds each. Yung sinasabi ko. So, kaya maraming nasusuklam. Maybe you're on the other side, you don't see the anger. Sometimes when you're in power, kasama mo yung mga in power, hindi ka nakikinig eh. You have to put your ears close to the ground. Hirap ang tao, lalo na ako, nasa Red Cross ako eh. Yan ang panata ko sa buhay. Natutulong kami doon sa Kailangan ng dugo, kailangan makapasok sa ospital. Hindi makapasok sa ospital, hahanapin ang paraan niya. Kukunin namin ng ambulansya, dadalhin namin sa ospital na dudugo ang puso ng tao, di makakain, nagugutom. Kahapon, isang araw lang, sinakwento ko rito, kinuha namin yung nabagsakan doon sa, tuwan-tuwa siya, nabakunahan siya, nasa dulo siya ng antipolo ng Red Cross, nabakunahan siya, tapos sabi niya, sir, yan yung nangyari sa akin. Ako yung nahulog doon sa tulay, doon sa, ano ba? Yung sa Skyway. Yung paa niya nangingitim, hindi na siya makalakad. The only breadwinner nakikiusap, sir, kailangan ko mapagamot para makapagtrabaho ko. Yung mga ganyan, hindi niya narinig yan. Ako narinig namin araw-araw yan. The other senators do that because we're public figures. Ang takbo ng tao kami. Yung mga nagninegosyo, ang hanap niyan ay profit. Profit lang, kita. Pinakamalaking profit. They will justify anything. You know? What does it profit the man if he loses all?
Totoo ba yan, sir? Sige nga, patunayan mo nga sa mga dati mong tao sa SBMA. Pakilang, sir.
Sa stage, pag ako ang nagsalita, kasi talagang hindi na siya karapat-dapat maging senador. Sa katagal niya, na milyonaryo na siya, hindi niya binayaran ang gobyerno, tama na, Gordon. Pahinga ka na. Kung nandiyan ka pa, delikado ang pera ng bayan. Totoo lang. Bago ako mag-umpisa, I would just like to give you run you through with the persons who are here sa ating ngayong gabi. Mga kababayan, nakita naman ninyo yung deliveries, yung dumating ng bakuna. It was not intermittent, but it was with regularity na dumadating yung mga bakuna, and it needed the presence of either Secretary Anio, Secretary Galvez Bensdison, and Secretary Duque. Kaya nung hindi naman ako nagalit, but I was complaining about the disrespect of officials of a separate Congress, na parang they treated my cabinet members na yung parang resource person nila kung saan nila nakbuka. Alam mo, makita mo naman ang deliveries ng bakuna sa airport. Kailangan nandoon sila to verify, validate, and to make sure that what was agreed upon dineliver talaga ng tama. Yun ang ano ko. Kasi pinapatawag nila itong apat minsan sa umaga o sa hapon, pero hindi naman nila tinatawag to testify. And it happened several times. Ako na po ang hindi naman naawa, but it's our duty really to obey the processes of Congress also. It's given. Wala akong ano dyan. Admittedly, they have the power to summon, and if you do not obey the summons, you can be cited in contempt sa Congress. Walang question yan. Pero ilang beses na tinawag itong aking mga opisyal, kailangan pa siya pumunta ng airport, tapos they are being detained doon sa Congress without a clear path of how to proceed on when will they be called to testify. Kung akin ang habol ko lang doon, not treat us and the cabinet members with respect also. Kung in the future, kung tawagin ninyo, set a date and time, and tawagin ninyo sa panahon na yan at the appointed space dyan sa... Huwag ninyong paupuin dyan kasi maraming trabaho yan. COVID pa noon hanggang ngayon. Tapos ganun na lang ang tratamento ninyo. At kung parang pasigaw na ang tanong ninyo sa mga, you know, they are also officials just like you. Walang sabi na appointed kayo, ito appointed lang sila kasi kayo elected. That's bullshit. They are there because that is provided for in the Constitution, and you have to have a secretary for each department. Hindi naman yan na mamimili ka lang ng kung sino-sino dyan ilagay mo. Do not place so much importance dyan sa position mo just because you are a senator. Ito si Gordon talagang lumaki ang ulo. He treats other people like inferior sa kanya. You know, gawain mo yan sa iba, wag sa akin. Putang ina mo. Talagang I will see to it that you will have your dues coming. Bastos ka eh. Bastos ka na tao, Gordon. Bastos ka. At kung hindi mag-agree ang mga senators dyan, ewan ko kung anong tingin ninyo sa karakter ng tao. How do you assess a person's deportment in public? Bastos. Magsigaw-sigaw ka ng kapareho mo. Hindi, you are no higher than the cabinet. Tabla-tabla lang tayo dito, trabahante sa gobyerno. Bakit ka ganun? Bumubula pa yung baba mo na yung sa parmalin. Sabi ko, durugin mo yan. Wala ka nakita sa investigasyon. Cleared by COA, nagalit ka. Tapos kalkal ka ng kalkal. Kasi magkikilala ko yung mga negosyante. Gago ka, kasalanan ko ba yung mga tao dito kung sinong magpunta sa akin magpakilala. At hindi naman yung residente na yan dito. Been in Davao for 22 na nga. So, kilala ko yan. Kaya kita mo transaction, malinis. Wala ka namang nakita. Walang overprice. Walang ghost deliveries. Wala kang nakita. Gusto mo kalkalin lahat. Hanggang dumating ka doon sa taxes. Walang bayad. Eh, di patayin mo. Dapat sunugin mo yan sila. Pero huwag yung mga cabinet members na ganoon ang tratamento ninyo. Kaya ako napilitan maggawa ng memorandum. Bahala na ang Supreme Court dyan. Hindi ako papayag na or whatever is the outcome of that case. At least magkaroon tayo ng dito na we should treat each other with respect. Do not shout at the fellow workers of government, lalo na mga cabinet members. Kasi tinuloy mo yung gano'n magkagulo talaga tayo. At sinabi ko sa kanila, stand up and tell them that you're leaving. If you are arrested, I will go there and get you. Ayaw ninyo, gulo. Yung mga sabi niyo, I'm threatening. You are the one threatening the entire program of government. Anong threatening? Kayo lang ba ang marunong magsigaw-sigaw sa tao? Eh kung sabihin ko sa inyo yung putang ina ka, sige daw, anong sagot mo? Saan mo gusto makita tayo? Kalaki-laki ng mukha mo, hindi magmintis itong sampal ko. Let's ka.
Well, mga kasangga, alam na this. Baka naman, pwede na mag-like, mag-share, at mag-comment. Diyos tiyag nina, Apo. Hanggang sa muli!